Everybody says that Cars 2 sucked, but what the
I
fuck
like
was,
Cars 2.
What the fuck was Planes?
I don't know.
I don't see the point of it. They're just milking the Cars franchise is what they're doing. So, you watch any movies lately?
Yeah, I watched Spider-Man, and I'm like trying to figure out why they keep changing the fucking actor. Like before, like they did a new Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I'm like, before all that, Tobey Maguire was a Spider-Man, right? Then they switch it up to like alternate universe, whatever. But I feel like it's because they fucked up on Spider-Man.
I don't know. They keep rebooting it, and I don't understand why.
I'm pretty sure.
But I think
when
they did try to like pull it back with the new one, the newest one.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to combine everything, and they did a good job doing it. But I feel like when they
kind of made an explanation for all the reboots by saying that they're all different universes. But
I mean, like think about it. When Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man, right? When he was like the emo Spider-Man, that killed everything, right? When he was in that fucking little dance scene or whatever, that just ruined the franchise on Spider-Man. And they're like, oh, we're going to hire a new actor to be Spider-Man.
I don't know if I agree with that, but everybody has their own opinions.
All right, well, let's talk about sequels of movies that ruin the storyline.
I'm going to throw in some games there too, but let's talk about
games
sequels.
Too. I know a couple of them.
I'm CRollur.
And I'm Willy.
Welcome to the podcast. You were talking about Spider-Man and all its sequels and reboots. Are there any other ones you want to talk about?
I mean, there's a lot of Disney ones, like Lion King that has sequels that sucked.
Oh, Lion
Pocahontas. There's like a
oh my
there's
God,
a bunch of them.
When they took her over back to England was just weird.
Yeah.
I mean,
it didn't even follow the actual events that actually happen in real life either.
How they tend to do that with movies, I don't know.
Yeah, they really over exaggerate everything.
But I mean, did it really ruin the first movie, or did it just suck?
It didn't ruin the first movie, but what it did was people loved the first movie so much. They're like, oh, let's, it's going to continue the storyline. And then they watch it and they're like, wow, that's disappointing. And then it kind of does disappoint, it does ruin the first movie because it's a big disappointment, Look at Fievel, Fievel Mousekewitz. He goes out west, that ruined the first one. Because they didn't want to see a cowboy mouse, they wanted to see a orphan, mouse,
Yeah, so changing stuff up.
Yeah, they just changed the storyline up so much that it just completely ruins the storyline.
But speaking of things that ruin the storyline, how about the Star Wars sequels? Like a lot of people hate on the prequels trilogy, but the sequel trilogy did something that kind of undermines the entire story up to that point.
Actually, I did like the sequels on them. I did not like the prequels.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but personally for me, I think the sequel trilogy actually ruined the ending of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Because when you actually think about it, the big bad guy in all three of the sequels was Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely dumb because we killed him off at the end. We killed him off, okay? But then again, there goes that rule of no body, no death. Like if you don't see them die, they're not there. You can't be sure if they're dead.
When you kill someone, you better identify that they're dead.
Yeah.
Don't just shoot
I
them.
mean,
don't just shoot him and run off like, oh, he's dead.
He basically came back by cloning himself. He had a secret project where he had a clone, and he, at the very end, while he was falling, he shot his consciousness into his clone body. I mean, here's actually a quote from the book that actually details this.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Plagueis had not acted fast enough in his own moment of death, but Sidious, sensing the flickering of light in his apprentice, had been ready for years. So the dying emperor called on all the dark power of the Force, thrust his consciousness far, far away, a secret place he had been preparing. His body was dead in an empty vessel long before it ever found the bottom of the shaft, and his mind jolted to a new awareness in a new body. He used the power of the dark side to take his consciousness and throw it into a clone body.
That's stupid.
The thing is his clone body wasn't ready, which is why he's weak in the
That is
sequel.
so stupid.
Yeah, but this isn't the first time they've done it either.
Right.
Remember, Darth Maul also did it, but Darth Maul is even worse.
Yeah, I know.
Because
he's Spider-Man now.
he basically channeled his rage against his killer to keep himself alive, despite being cut literally in half.
I actually like this topic right here, because I don't think that Star Wars did a bad job ruining the storyline. They kept it up, where it made sense.
Yes and no. I mean,
but there was some.
It's kind of annoying, is what I'm saying. Like, it's just like they ruined a perfectly good ending by having the person that was supposed to die live.
I think the prequels was the worst ones, to actually tell you the truth, not the sequels.
I mean, you can say what you want, but personally, I thought that the sequel trilogy had a lot of
controversy.
Yeah, a lot of controversy, but mostly they threw in characters like they didn't do a good job of their inclusion of other of people.
Yeah, and I think they should have used better actors, not mediocre actors.
Like the female lead felt weak. Like they should have done a better job with Rey. They should have done a better job with her. And then on top of that, the Black Stormtrooper, like all of his story, nothing he did actually mattered.
It's funny because most people that are big Star Wars fans, they actually don't even like most of these characters. They like that, what is his name, Boba Fett or whatever, or that bounty hunter guy.
Boba Fett was a bounty hunter, but that's not the one that's from the
new one.
Yeah, that's not the one from the Mandalorian.
What's the new one?
Mandalorian. I don't actually know.
And actually, most people actually like the Mandalorian.
Most people just know him as the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, most people like the Mandalorian more than they like.
And the baby is just the baby or Baby Yoda, even though he's not Yoda at all.
That's pretty bad when people like the Mandalorian more than they like,
the main storyline. Yeah, that is pretty bad. And I think that goes to speak on my point that the sequels just didn't do well. I got another one here that might be controversial, but Men in Black 2.
Yeah, I know where you're going to get. I know where you're getting at with this one already.
For me, I think the most notable thing about that movie, the only thing I actually remembered, was the post office scene. Honestly, I hardly remember the rest of the movie. That tells you everything you need to know. Like, it wasn't notable at all.
No.
Honestly, I liked Men in Black.
It was actually quite boring. That movie was quite boring.
Yeah, I liked Men in Black 3 better. The problem with it is it wasn't enough to redeem the franchise, as noted by the fact that there is no Men in Black 4. It just wasn't enough. Like, Men in Black, the original Men in Black was awesome. Men in Black 2 kind of tanked it. The Men in Black 3 was, in my own opinion, decent.
It was one of the worst movies I ever seen. And I actually, my family actually went to the drive-in for this, spent all that money. And me being a kid, I even knew the movie sucked.
There's not much I can personally say about it, as I didn't find it notable at all. So, when Men in Black 3 came around, I was hesitant to watch it, but I did watch it. And I thought it was a decent one. I don't think it was as good as the first one, which is probably why it didn't.
The thing is, when you make a sequel of a movie, the audience expect it to be better than the first one.
That is actually a problem, is the further you get down the line in sequels, the harder that is to accomplish.
Yep. It's almost impossible. Like, look at Shrek.
What do you think of Shrek 5?
I didn't watch that one.
I don't think it's out yet. I'm just saying, Shrek 5 isn't out yet. That's coming out in 2 years, apparently.
2 years.
But it is announced, and I want to know what you think about that.
They might. I don't know. I think they'll pull it off because they learned their lesson when they had that one bad movie with Justin Timberlake in it.
So you think it might actually be redeemable?
It would redeem it, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, the fourth Shrek was it forever.
Why do you think they made a big gap?
What? Yeah. I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. We'll get to that when we talk about Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem, okay. But you got Mike Myers. He is a genius when it comes to, storylines and comedy. And I think Donkey is played by, what's his name?
Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy, yeah. Eddie Murphy's pretty good comedian.
I mean,
imagination.
To be honest, the voice actors aren't the problem. It's the storylines.
Yeah, but they actually do the storylines too. They make the story.
I mean, yes, a bad voice actor can tank a movie, but a poorly written storyline cannot be redeemed by voice actors alone.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I think Shrek 3 was a good example of that. Shrek 4, Shrek Forever After, I think it is, which should be the end of a franchise if it's Forever After.
It should have been, but they got to make their money, right?
But
look
yeah,
at like Pixar and DreamWorks, and look at Disney. Like, look at Monster Incorporated. They're like,
they did a university.
Monster University. That was stupid.
It was such a big change. I mean, it was such a big change from like the original movie, but I mean, they had a reason, at least a reasonable idea behind it, which is this is how they became who they were.
They're just throwing in ideas and making a movie. It just seems like Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks always make these sequels that ruins.
You mean
everything.
Like Cars 2,
Cars,
Plane. I think Planes. Everybody says that Cars 2 sucked, but I like
Cars 2.
What the fuck was Planes?
I don't know.
I don't see the point of it. They're just milking the Cars franchise is what they're doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I'll get back to the ones that are on my list. Not the ones that I didn't bother with. Like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That Crystal Skull movie was so bad that I don't even want to watch Indiana Jones anymore.
I mean, the new one's The Dial of Destiny, which came out last year.
Yeah, I don't even want to watch after the Crystal Skull.
I didn't think that the Dial of Destiny was as bad, but they did retcon the Crystal Skull they did retcon it, which I think is basically just trying to undo what they did.
See, the thing is, once you fuck up on a movie and I watch it and I realize that they fucked up, I don't even want to watch anymore after that.
I'll tell you my father's opinion. My father's opinion is that the Temple of Doom is his least favorite.
Are you serious?
He likes Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Last Crusade. I don't necessarily know his opinion about the other two, but the Temple of Doom, I think it was just too graphic for him with the ripping out.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't like horror, so having a horror element in the movie probably turned him off to it. I say this mostly because he's the one that introduced me to Indiana Jones.
The one only sequel after Lion King that was actually good. It was
1.5.
1.5. Yeah, I like that one. I love that movie.
The only reason that one is actually good is because it's basically making fun of the original.
Yeah, I loved it.
It's a spoof comedy, is what it is.
Yeah, I like it.
So
then like they keep like doing like these like like for example like I don't know why Disney keeps making these sequels.
I don't know, but I do want to touch upon the reason why I personally think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was bad before we move on completely.
Okay.
Which is that they tried to make it, they tried to do too much. They tried to make the storyline too out there. Like, who the hell needs aliens in a movie about a dungeon delver?
When I watch
That's basically what Indiana Jones is. He goes into dungeons and takes relics and puts them in museums.
When I was watching the movie, I was waiting for Predator to show up at any moment. Yeah, that's like the whole time I was like, oh, they're going to like do a spinoff and Predator's going to show up and kill everyone, and then Indiana Jones had to fight Predator.
What do you think of the Matrix trilogy?
I loved it.
You loved it? So do I, but a lot of people hated Revolution and Reloaded.
No, it's because they don't understand. I actually thought the Matrix got better. Like the first movie was great, the second movie was better, the third movie was better. Then they did anime Matrix.
Yeah, and then I think they tried to do a reboot of the series, which I didn't watch.
I never watched the last one, but I heard it didn't do too well.
So that one might have tanked it. But for my opinion, a lot of people are saying the second and third one were bad. or at least we're because there's two opinions on it that I've seen. Some that say that they made the first one look bad in comparison, which I could kind of see it with your viewpoint of this. But then there are other people that just said that the last two were total trash and they sucked, that they were sucky action movies. And I'm like, I actually
it wasn't
enjoyed
about
them.
the action. It was about the storyline.
And I think that the storyline wrapped up pretty neatly.
Yeah,
and it even left a little bit of a cliffhanger there.
They should have never made the last movie because when John Wick came out, everyone was all about, Keanu Reeves and, they're like, oh, we want to see a Matrix movie, and then they just like threw one in and, it wasn't even like set up and wasn't even like storyline wasn't even ready.
Speaking of one of those viewpoints, I got another one in here. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I actually really, really like this movie. And I think for me personally, it does kind of ruin the first movie, but not because it sucked, but because it was so good that it outshined it.
Oh, no shit. What movie was it?
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Came out in 2022.
Oh, I never watched that one.
It was a really good movie.
No shit.
And I think it makes the original Puss in Boots look mediocre.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Right now, I got Back to the Future listed, mostly not because I personally think this, but because other people seem to think that the second two movies ruined it, just like they did with The Matrix. The one thing I will say on it is the first movie was good from beginning to end. It had a nice conclusion. The second two movies, you have to have two. There was no way of doing that because they left it off on a cliffhanger. And then you had to have the third movie to wrap it all up. I do think it's a little strange that they ended up with a Wild West kind of motif there.
Yeah.
But in the end, like, it wasn't bad. And I think it was a good wrap up to the entire story and the entire idea that you should live your life because you never know what the future is going to hold.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, people want to see more action, but they don't sit there and follow the storyline. You have to follow the storyline.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to, watch the first movie, then go to the second movie. Even if you have to watch it a couple times, and then just follow the storyline. I mean, look at fucking Terminator. Like, a lot of people hated Terminator 3.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that bad. Terminator 1, right? I didn't really care for that movie, but when Terminator 2 came out and the Terminator was actually on the good side, I loved it. Then Terminator 3, a lot of people got pissed off about it, and I was like, man, that woman's a badass.
So, without further delay, we're going to get to the one that I mentioned earlier, Duke Nukem Forever.
That video game sucked.
Not only did it suck, but it took 14 years to develop. It started development in 1997, didn't get published till 2011. The word that describes it is mediocre.
No,
for 14 years,
it's not mediocre.
I think it is because the graphics were just okay. Like, they were basically the low end of the generation for that.
It looked like
the interactivity. There was a lot of stuff to interact with, but a lot of it was just underwhelming.
The game reminded me of Doom.
Like, the gunplay is pretty freaking easy. Like that, and like just from the first little bit, you just go from encounter to encounter. There's no actual real gunplay. You go boss battle, then you dick around in your apartment for a little bit, and then you fight some things in the dark, and then you go to another boss battle. Never actual gunplay. Like, you're fist fighting through the dark. You don't even have a gun for that part. On top of all of that, you got the fridging of the Wholesome twins. I mean, that's literally probably the worst trope possible to throw in there.
Where's voice acting?
Now, another one that bothers me is Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Like, the original Banjo-Kazooie was awesome. But Nuts and Bolts, they basically turned like a 3D platformer and collector game into a vehicle game. And I didn't like it. For a sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, there should have been more platforming and shit. Like, making it like a vehicle-based game just kind of threw off the entire thing. So what video games can you think of that had sequels that ruined it?
Oh, I want to put in Mass Effect. I used to love the game, like Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, but when they brought in Mass Effect 3, I think it's called Armada or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like the worst fucking Mass Effect
You're
game.
not alone on that. A lot of people seem to think that.
Yeah, it had bad voice acting. Like you see an alien that looks aggressive, and he would like look at you, and then you talk to him, he'd be like, "Hi." It was like worst voice acting ever.
Oh, go back to the voice actors could ruin a thing.
Yeah, yeah, it was like just terrible. Like the gun shooting was.
But you also have to realize that somebody directed that voice actor to do that.
Yeah, I know.
And a game that's kind of like the beginning of like really hardcore gaming for me, which is Halo. Like I used to play a lot of Nintendo games before that, but Halo. There are two opinions on this one. Again, for me, a lot of people think that Halo 5 was like ruined the entire franchise.
It didn't.
Depends on how critical you are of it. I think
it depends if you're an online player or you're a campaign player.
I'm more of a campaign player.
Yeah, if you're a campaign player, then the game is perfect for you. But if you're an online player, then you're not going to like it.
But I think Halo 2, as good as it was, kind of put to shame the original. A lot of stuff.
Yes and no. I don't like the fact that you're working with a dinosaur.
It's not a dinosaur, it's an alien.
No, it's a dinosaur. I hate when people use that fucking dinosaur online because you think you're getting a headshot, but you're hitting the fucking hump on his back.
Hardcore Sweats did that because they knew things like that.
Yeah, so I'm like aiming. I'm thinking I'm aiming at the head, but I'm hitting like the hump of his back.
Another one that I could think of is Star Wars Battlefront 2.
I actually hate that game.
Battlefront 2, the biggest reason for me that I feel like it ruined it, and it ruins all EA games for me, actually, because it was like the most microtransaction, pay to win, pay to unlock shit game that I've ever seen. I mean, they tried to walk it back, but that's pretty much what it was when it came out. And then on top of it, it had bugs.
The spawning
Like, if you're going to expect people to pay a bunch of money for a game and then pay a bunch more money to unlock shit in the game, at least make your game not have bugs in it.
Right. And the spawning sucked. Like, you can get spawn killed on that game, like, real quick.
So, yeah, like, that one, to me, it kind of ruined not only the franchise, but the entire company. Like, that was a turning point to me where I'm like, EA is just...
It was the same people that made Battlefield. It was DICE.
I get that the point of making video games for a company is to make money, but you got to realize that at some point that being too greedy just turns people off.
Yeah, that I bought that game too. That was like one of the worst games.
Because if I wanted to go to a casino, I'd go to a fucking casino. I did just think of another one for me, which was Guild Wars 2. Not so much that it ruined the franchise, but it ruined it for me. Because it took what I thought was great about Guild Wars and threw it out the window and went with more of a World of Warcraft vibe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's cool and all that I can do side quests like mining and shit, but I really liked the feel of the original Guild Wars. And the newer game, like, it has a lot of different mechanics, a lot of different stuff.
I never played Guild Wars. Like, is it just like one of those build a base and attack, or?
It's a fantasy-based MMO. Anyways, what games do you know of?
I want to say Dead Space.
Dead Space?
Yeah, Dead Space 1 was like really great. Dead Space 2 was mediocre. Dead Space 3 sucked.
So it was just a downhill from the...
Yeah, they're just trying to, like, make money. You know that.
Yeah.
Dead Space was one of them. The first game was like one of the scariest fucking games ever, made at that time. Dead Space 2 was kind of all right. Actually, Resident Evil, they actually went up when they did Resident Evil 7 and 8 with the Biohazard and the Village. They did really good on that one. Like, they didn't use the same thing they used before, where it's like third-person shooter. They did first-person, and it was more of a horror thing instead of more of an action thing. That was pretty good. But, Resident Evil did have their downside. Like, Resident Evil 4 and 5 was decent. Resident Evil 6 sucked. Then they learned their lesson from that, and they're like, all right, well, we need to get the audience back. We need to make things scary again. And that's when they did, 7 and 8. You literally watch your fingers get chopped off, like right in front of your face, let's talk about fighting games that got worse over the years.
Which fighting game? Like Mortal Kombat?
Yeah,
Like
Injustice.
for me, Mortal Kombat. Like for me, the peak was around 3, but I think a lot of people would disagree with that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the newer ones, it's too technically challenging for a noob. Like I'm not a
right.
I'm not a button masher, but like I like 3 to 4 button combos, and now like a freaking combo to do anything in the game is like 16 buttons long. And I'm like, I can't remember that shit. And you gotta do that shit, otherwise you get your ass whooped. Like I don't want to play a game where I have to memorize a sequence of like 16 different things.
So you think they think that killed Mortal Kombat?
I think they killed it by making it too hard to do anything in the game other than
you gotta have a photographic memory for that shit. Like up, right, left, up. And you gotta do it quick. You gotta do it quick. You can't just do it slow.
And you have to do that in time with everything. Like,
and by the time you're doing all that, the other players like look at you like, why are you backing up like twice and going up and down? And it's like, oh, he's doing a combo.
I mean, the idea is that you're supposed to chain moves into other moves. But for me, having to chain all that and knowing which ones I have to chain in there to get it to work is a little ridiculous.
But like during the time from like, back in like the 80s and 90s to like now, you think Mortal Kombat got better?
I also think the storyline got way too complicated.
Yeah, it did.
Which brings me to the Annihilation. What was it?
Remember the movie?
The original movie was cheesy, but
the first movie was good.
The
second one was not good.
The first movie I thought was pretty good. I mean, it is what it is. It's a game movie.
Yeah.
But the second one just fell short.
Even as a kid, growing up in the 90s, I didn't even like the second movie. They changed Sonya Blade, the actor, and I didn't like that.
I mean, is that the only thing you had problem with?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and then that fucking robot guy, what's his name, Jax or something like that? And like him, and I don't like the fact they killed Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage was like the star of the movie. No one cared about Liu Kang. They all cared about...
You're talking about Mortal Kombat Annihilation, right?
Yeah.
Because there is another one that's called Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh, they have a Mortal Kombat 2. Oh, okay. Here we go.
2025.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one.
It hasn't come out yet, but I was astonished when I tried to look up Mortal Kombat 2 and it wasn't the one I was thinking it was. Yeah, like I thought they would.
Do you think that's going to be a big disappointment on 2025?
Then again, it looks like they rebooted because there's another original Mortal Kombat. You got Mortal Kombat 1995 and Mortal Kombat 2021. I didn't even know that this new franchise was a thing. This new reboot.
I didn't either.
Annihilation kind of ruined it for me that I didn't even...
I don't even care about Mortal Kombat anymore. If you want to talk about reboots. Now, with reboots, Mad Max, what do you think about that one?
I feel like Mad Max went downhill and should not have been rebooted anyway.
No, it should never have been
The original
rebooted.
Mad Max was great.
Yeah.
Then they made sequels. I forgot that was one that I could have talked about earlier. But then a reboot did not help. I didn't realize how long ago Mad Max was made.
It was made back in I think the late 70s or early 80s.
Yeah, 79.
Yeah.
But that's before I was even born.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I never watched the original.
Really? You started Mad Max 2? Or Beyond?
No, I watched the remake one.
Ah, okay.
You know what another video game that really pisses me off is that Max Payne game? Because I used to love them back in the day, and then they ruined that one too. You're literally taking Percocets to heal your wounds. They're like telling you to take painkillers just fucking heal yourself. What's that?
I think Far Cry 3 for me was a bit of a letdown because I had played mostly because there was a multiplayer thing in Far Cry 2.
Oh, gotcha.
That you could build your own little island to battle on and shit. And I liked Forge mode in Halo and building the thing for Far Cry 2. But when Far Cry 3 came out, it did not have that at all.
Oh, they didn't have it?
It really didn't, it didn't work.
Well, I think next episode we're going to talk about sequels that actually did work. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that'll be the next episode.
I'm going to put a spoiler in there. Yeah, we're going to go God of War. That sequel worked.
So, other games and movies and stuff that the sequels actually worked.
Yeah, Terminator 2 worked.
All right. Well, thank you for watching this episode. I'm CRollur.
And I'm Willy.
Thank you for watching.
Peace.
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 And of course, you got Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5.
Never played that one, but I heard really bad things about it.